The next morning, Chief Obinna tried another test. This time, he deliberately spilled a small bucket of water near the gate. He wanted to see how Nneka would react when something went wrong. As expected, Nneka noticed immediately when she stepped outside. "Poro," she shouted, her voice sharp. "Yes, madam," he said, approaching her with a small bow. She pointed at the puddle of water. "What is this?" "Oh, madam, it was a small accident. I will clean it immediately." "Accident," she repeated, her voice rising. "Do you think this is a joke? If you can't do a simple job properly, maybe I should find someone else who can." "I'm very sorry, madam," he said humbly. "You're always sorry," she muttered, shaking her head before stepping around the puddle and walking away. Chief Obinna sighed. He had expected this, but it still hurt to see her react with so much anger over something so small. That evening, when Ikin visited again, his father didn't wait for him to ask. "She shouted at me today over a small puddle of water." Ikin frowned. "Papa, I don't want to believe this, but..." He sighed deeply. "You're right. She has no patience for those she thinks are beneath her." Chief Obinna nodded. "And that, my son, is a dangerous thing in a person." Ikin sat in silence, his heart heavy. He loved Nneka. But was love enough? His father's words echoed in his mind. Love is important, but so is respect. He needed to see for himself. "I have an idea," Ikin said suddenly. "What is it?" his father asked. "I will pretend to leave for another trip. But I won't actually go. I'll stay in Oji and watch how she behaves when she thinks I'm not around." Chief Obinna smiled. "A wise decision, my son. The truth will show itself soon enough." Ikin nodded. He wasn't sure if he was ready for the truth. But he knew he needed to see it with his own eyes. Ikin stood in his room, staring at his packed suitcase. It was all part of the act. He wanted Nneka to believe he was leaving for a business trip. He had arranged for his driver to take him to the airport, but once he was out of sight, he would return to Oji and stay in a hotel nearby. He needed to see for himself how Nneka behaved when she thought he wasn't watching. Chief Obinna, still in his disguise as the gateman, stood by the gate as Ikin walked toward the waiting car. Nneka followed behind him, smiling as she adjusted his jacket. "My love, do you really have to go for so long?" she asked, pouting slightly. Ikin forced a small smile. "It's just for a week, Nneka. Business is important." "I know," she sighed, stepping back. "I miss you." He kissed her forehead. "I miss you too." He turned to Chief Obinna, who bowed slightly. "Safe journey, sir." Ikin nodded, keeping up the act. "Thank you, Poro. Take care of the house while I'm gone." With that, he got into the car. As the vehicle drove away, he glanced back through the tinted windows. The moment Nneka thought he was gone, her expression changed. She no longer looked sad. Instead, she turned away with a neutral face and walked back into the house. Ikin's heart clenched. An hour later, Ikin checked into a small hotel in town. He had already instructed Chief Obinna to update him on everything that happened in his absence. But he wasn't just going to rely on his father's words, he would see things for himself. That evening, Chief Obinna called. "She has already started showing herself, my son," his father said. "What happened?" "She called the house staff together and gave them orders in a very rude manner. She told them that since you are away, things will now run the way she likes. Then she warned them not to embarrass her when she has visitors." Ikin clenched his jaw. "So she's acting differently now that I'm gone?" "Yes," his father confirmed. "And that is just the beginning." The next morning, Ikin decided to watch from a distance. He drove past the mansion slowly, his car windows tinted. From his position, he could see the house but remain unseen. Nneka was standing outside, dressed in a fine blue gown. A woman, one of her friends, was laughing beside her. Chief Obinna was nearby, sweeping the driveway. As Ikin watched, he saw Nneka glance at his father before turning to her friend and saying something that made them both laugh. She was pointing at the flowers near the gate. Ikin rolled down his window slightly to hear. "Oh, don't be fooled by how nice the flowers look," Neca said. "It's not because of the gardener's skill. I tell him exactly what to do. These workers can't think for themselves." Her friend laughed. "Oh, I understand. If you don't control them, they'll become lazy." Ikin gripped the steering wheel. His father, the man who had built an empire and who had worked hard his whole life, was now being ridiculed by the very woman Ikin had chosen as his wife. His heart ached. That evening, Chief Obinna met with Ikin in the hotel. "My son, you saw it for yourself today," his father said, sitting across from him. Ikin nodded, still struggling to process everything. "She insulted you, Papa," he whispered. "She called you a worker who can't think for himself." Chief Obinna sighed. "I expected it." Ikin shook his head. "This isn't just about me anymore. If she can speak this way about you, what does that say about her heart?" His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes, love blinds us, my son. But now you see clearly. The question is, what will you do?" Ikin didn't answer immediately. He was torn. He had loved Nneka. He had trusted her. But now, the truth was staring him in the face. And he had to decide what to do with it. Ikin sat in his hotel room in Oji, staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet, but his mind was loud. Thoughts clashed inside his head like waves crashing against the shore. Nneka, the woman he loved, the woman he had trusted, had shown a side of herself he had never seen before. Or maybe he had just never paid attention. His father, Chief Obinna, sat across from him, waiting for him to speak. "Papa," Ikin finally said, his voice heavy. "I don't know what to do." Chief Obinna leaned forward. "The truth is painful, my son, but it is better than living in doubt." Ikin sighed. "I want to believe she can change. Maybe she doesn't realize how harsh she is." His father studied him for a moment. "If you truly believe that, then we continue the test. Let us watch her for a little longer." Ikin nodded slowly. He wasn't ready to give up on his marriage just yet. The next morning, Chief Obinna returned to his role as the humble gateman. As the sun rose over Oji, he prepared for another day of silent observation. He stood by the gate, waiting for Nneka to leave for her morning workout. She was always particular about looking good, and her fitness routine was one of her most prized habits. When she finally stepped out, she was dressed in stylish sportswear, her headphones in her ears. She barely noticed Chief Obinna as she passed. He bowed slightly. "Good morning, madam." She didn't respond. Chief Obinna watched as she walked to her car, opened the door, and then suddenly stopped. She turned to him, pulling out one of her earbuds. "Poro, come here." He walked over. "Yes, madam." She crossed her arms. "My car windows are dusty. Didn't you clean them?" Chief Obinna glanced at the windows. There was only a light layer of dust, barely noticeable. But he bowed his head anyway. "I'm sorry, madam. I will clean them now." "You should have done that earlier," she snapped, stepping aside as he rushed to wipe them down. As he cleaned, she tapped her foot impatiently. "Hurry up. I don't have all day." Finally, when he was done, she got into the car and sped off without another word. Chief Obinna sighed. That evening, Ikin called his father to check on the day's events. "She ignored me again this morning," Chief Obinna reported. And when she finally spoke, it was only to complain. Ikin shook his head. "Did she say anything kind? Even once?" No. Ikin felt a sharp pain in his chest. He wanted to believe that, deep down, Nneka was a good person. But time and time again, she proved otherwise. "I'm going to keep watching," he said. "But Papa, I think I already know the answer." His father sighed. "Sometimes, my son, the hardest truth is the one that was always in front of us." The next day, Chief Obinna tested Nneka again. This time, he deliberately left the gate slightly open when she returned home. When she arrived, she stopped her car suddenly and honked furiously. "Poro," she screamed, stepping out of the vehicle. "Yes, madam," he said, walking toward her. "Why is this gate open? Are you trying to get us robbed?" "I was about to close it, madam," he said humbly. She threw her hands up in frustration. "Are you even thinking? What if someone came in and stole something? Do you use your brain at all?" Chief Obinna bowed his head. "I'm sorry, madam. I would be more careful." "You should be," she snapped before storming inside. Chief Obinna closed the gate behind her, shaking his head. It wasn't just her words. It was the way she spoke. The complete lack of respect. The way she saw him as nothing. It was becoming clearer every day. Nneka's heart had no kindness for those she saw as beneath her. That night, Ikin met his father again. "She shouted at you over a slightly open gate?" he asked, shaking his head. His father nodded. "Yes. And it wasn't just anger. It was the way she spoke, as if I wasn't even human." Ikin felt his stomach turn. He had seen enough. "Papa," he said slowly. "I think I have my answer." Chief Obinna placed a hand on his shoulder. "And what will you do now, my son?" Ikin didn't respond immediately. He looked down at his hands, thinking deeply. Then, finally, he spoke. "I need to reveal the truth." Ikin sat in his hotel room, deep in thought. His father's words replayed in his mind over and over again. "And what will you do now, my son?" He had spent the past few days watching Neca, hoping she would prove him wrong. But she hadn't. If anything, she had only confirmed his worst fears. Now he knew the truth. His wife wasn't the kind and loving woman he had thought she was. She only cared about people she saw as important, people with power, money, or status. To everyone else, she showed nothing but coldness and impatience. Ikin exhaled deeply and turned to his father. "Papa, I need to end this game. I need to confront her." Chief Obinna nodded. "Yes, but you must do it in a way that she cannot deny. Let her reveal herself before others." Ikin frowned. "What do you mean?" His father stroked his beard thoughtfully. "You have been watching her. But now, it's time for others to see her true face as well." Ikin thought for a moment. Then, an idea came to him. "I will organize a gathering at the mansion," he said slowly. "I'll invite family, friends, and important guests. And I'll make sure Neca believes it's a celebration in her honor." Chief Obinna raised an eyebrow. "Go on. At the party, she will feel comfortable, she will act like the perfect hostess, pretending to be kind and warm." But then, Ikin smirked. "We will let the truth come out." Chief Obinna's lips curled into a small smile. "A wise plan, my son. She will expose herself without realizing it." Ikin's eyes darkened. He had given her every chance. Now, she would have to face the consequences of her actions.
Hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, comment, share it with your family and friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.